A captain locked a man inside a doctor's office thinking he was a playboy, but he was a millionaire doctor. Before we begin the story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story, everyone. The door to the doctor's office swung open with a loud bang, startling everyone in the waiting room out of their chairs. A woman in a blue military uniform stormed in like a whirlwind, her eyes blazing with fury as she locked the door behind her. "Hey, you!" Maya Rodriguez pointed her finger straight at the man in the white coat, who nearly dropped his stethoscope in shock. "You are going to tell me right now why you left my sister Sophia at the altar like some disgusting coward." Dr. David Chen, 30 years old, blinked several times trying to make sense of what was happening. His glasses slipped down his nose as he stammered. "I'm sorry, but I think there's been some mistake." "Mistake?" Maya stepped forward like a tiger, forcing David to back up until he hit the exam table. "Sophia cried for 3 days. 3 whole days, you jerk. She spent all her savings on that wedding dress and you just disappeared." David raised his hands in defense, his voice higher than usual. "Ma'am, please, I swear I don't know any Sophia. This has to be some misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Maya yanked her phone from her pocket with military precision. "This is you, Diego Chen. Don't even try to deny it." She shoved the screen in David's face. He widened his eyes at the photo. The resemblance was shocking. Same face, same shaped eyes, even the same height, but it definitely wasn't him. I swear I'm not that person," David stuttered, his heart racing. "My name is David Chen. I'm a doctor here at Boston General Hospital. I've never left anyone at the altar." Maya studied his face with the sharp eye of a trained officer. She saw the genuine nervousness, but her anger was too strong to care. "Of course you'd deny it. That's what all playboys do." She placed herself between David and the door. "You think you can play with women's feelings and just get away with it?" "Please." David tried to step toward the door, but Maya blocked him like a human wall. "I have patients waiting. If we could just talk about this another time." "No." Maya crossed her arms, her muscles showing the results of military training. "You're not going anywhere until you give me a decent explanation." David felt sweat running down his forehead. He'd never handled confrontation well, especially not with angry women who looked trained for combat. His shy nature made him want to sink into the floor. "Listen," he tried using a firmer tone, though his voice still shook. "I really don't know your sister. Maybe if you showed me more pictures or—" "More pictures?" Maya gave a bitter laugh. "You want more proof of your own face? What kind of psychopath are you?" David saw the fire in her eyes and realized she was used to being in charge, to being obeyed. That uniform wasn't for show. She really was a soldier. "Look, Captain," he read the rank on her uniform. "Rodriguez, right? I understand why you're upset, but I swear on my medical license, I've never seen your sister in my life." "Medical license?" Maya scoffed. "Men like you lie about everything, including your job. I bet you're not even a real doctor." That hit David hard. He had worked for years to earn his degree, spent sleepless nights studying, and given up his social life to help people. For a moment, his shyness faded. "I am a doctor. Graduated from Harvard, specialized in heart surgery, and I've worked at this hospital for 5 years. Maya noticed the change in his tone but was still too determined to back down. Outside, worried voices began to rise. Patients were knocking on the door. "Dr. Chen, is everything all right in there?" a nurse called from outside. David took a deep breath, gathering the courage to say what he had been keeping to himself. His hands trembled slightly as he whispered, barely audible, "You don't understand. I have a twin brother, Diego Chen." The silence that followed David's words was so heavy, Maya could hear her own heartbeat. She blinked several times, processing what he had just said. "Twin brother?" she repeated slowly, as if tasting the words. David nodded nervously, adjusting the glasses that had slipped during the confrontation. "Diego Chen is my twin brother. We were born 3 minutes apart. Well, let's just say he and I are very different." Maya felt the first flicker of doubt creeping into her rock-solid certainty. She looked more closely at David's face, the genuinely confused expression, the defensive posture, the slight tremble in his hands. None of it matched the confident, charming man Sophia had described. At that moment, Maya's phone rang loudly with a sharp ringtone. She glanced at the screen and saw Sophia flashing. For a moment she hesitated to answer, but concern for her sister took over. "Sophia? What is it?" Her sister's excited voice on the other end made Maya go cold. "Maya, you won't believe it. Diego showed up. He was on a work trip in Mexico, and his phone broke. He explained everything. We're setting a new date for the wedding." Maya felt the blood drain from her face. Her eyes turned to David, who was watching her expression shift from fury to rising horror. "Sophia, where are you right now?" "I'm at his apartment." "Oh, Maya, I knew there was an explanation. He brought me the most beautiful gifts from Mexico, and—" Maya ended the call with shaking hands. Silence returned to the office, but now it was a heavy, awkward silence. She had made a mistake, a terrible mistake. David watched the change on her face, and despite everything, felt a flicker of compassion. "Your sister met my brother?" he asked gently. Maya couldn't find any words. All her military strength, all her absolute certainty, had collapsed in seconds. She, who had always taken pride in her discipline and precision, had just attacked an innocent man. She started, but couldn't finish. Then something unexpected happened. David's timid demeanor seemed to vanish, replaced by a calm strength Maya hadn't seen before. He stood up straighter, took off his glasses, and began cleaning them with slow, deliberate movements. When he spoke, his voice carried an authority that made Maya take a step back. "Since we're clearing up misunderstandings," David said, "maybe it's time I clear up a few things about myself too." He walked over to his desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a gold business card. With a steady hand, he offered it to Maya. "My name is Dr. David Chen. Yes, I'm a Harvard-trained physician, but what you don't know is that I also own this institution." Maya took the card with hesitant fingers. She read it out loud. "David Chen, President and CEO, Chen Medical Group." She looked at him, confused. "Chen Medical Group, isn't that the largest private hospital network on the East Coast?" David finished. 43 hospitals, 27 specialty clinics, and yes, a few $1 billion in assets. Maya's knees felt weak. She had attacked, humiliated, and locked in an office. A billionaire? But you're wearing an old lab coat. You work like a regular doctor. I've seen you treating patients. David smiled for the first time since she'd barged into his office, but it was a sad smile. "Because this is what I love doing. My family built this medical empire, but I never wanted to just sit in a boardroom. I want to save lives, not just manage hospitals." He walked over to the window, watching the street below. "I work here under a partially hidden identity. My staff knows who I am, but we pretend I'm just another doctor. It's the only way I can live a normal life, to know people like me for who I am, not for what I own." Maya felt even smaller. She hadn't just gone after an innocent man. She'd gone after someone who spent his time and fortune helping others. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked, genuinely curious. David turned to face her, and Maya saw something in his eyes she couldn't quite identify. "Because you stood up for your sister with a strength I admire. Because you didn't hesitate to challenge someone you thought had hurt your family. And because," he paused, "because it's been a long time since anyone treated me like a regular person." David's phone rang, cutting through the moment. He looked at the screen and visibly paled. "My mother," he whispered, as if announcing a natural disaster. Maya watched the transformation happen instantly. The confident man who had just revealed himself as the head of a medical empire shrank back into the nervous, quiet doctor. "Hi, Mom?" Even without hearing the other end of the call, Maya could feel the intensity of the woman's voice just from David's reaction. "Yes, Mom, I know we agreed. No, I didn't forget. Of course, I'll be in the office tomorrow." He hung up and turned to Maya with genuine panic on his face. "My mother's coming to visit tomorrow. She thinks I only work in the administrative office. If she finds out I spend my days treating patients." "What's going on?" Maya asked, her curiosity winning over her embarrassment. "She'll kill me," David replied with a seriousness that made Maya realize he wasn't exaggerating. "She thinks manual work, even as a doctor, is beneath a Chen." Maya looked at the man in front of her, a billionaire, a brilliant doctor, completely terrified of his own mother. And despite everything, she found herself smiling. "Well, Dr. Chen," she said, "looks like we both have a problem now." Maya couldn't sleep a wink that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw David's confused face when she had lashed out like a storm. Guilt twisted in her stomach. She'd always prided herself on her military precision, and now she had completely failed. The next morning, she showed up at the hospital door with a coffee and a peace-offering sandwich. She found David just coming out of surgery, his face tired but content. "Dr. Chen?" she called out hesitantly. David turned around, and when he saw her, his expression closed off slightly. Not angry, but guarded, in a way that hurt Maya more than yelling ever could. "Captain Rodriguez," he greeted her formally. "I brought coffee, and I wanted to apologize, really." She held out the cup like a peace offering. David took the coffee, but his face stayed reserved. "Thank you, but no need to feel guilty. Mistakes happen." His polite coldness stung more than Maya had expected. She'd faced angry generals with more courage than she felt in that moment. "Can I ask you something?" she said, deciding to be direct as always. "Why do you work here if you have so much money? Aren't you just playing doctor?" The words came out harsher than she intended, and she saw David stiffen. "Playing?" he repeated, his voice low but sharp. "I just spent 6 hours operating on a 12-year-old boy who got hit by a car. I saved his life. Does that sound like a game to you?" Maya felt her cheeks burn. "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" David stepped closer, and for the first time, Maya saw fire in his eyes. "That because I have money, I can't have a calling? That just because I inherited a fortune, I shouldn't want to help people?" Maya stammered, not used to being the one caught off guard. "It's just that I don't understand why someone in your position would choose to work so hard. And I don't understand," David shot back, "how someone so afraid of being vulnerable can judge my choices." His words hit Maya like a punch. "I'm not afraid of anything." "No?" David crossed his arms. "Then why do you strike first and ask questions later? Why do you prefer being tough instead of admitting when you're wrong?" The tension between them was thick. They were standing close now, so close that Maya could see the small scars on David's hands, signs of years spent in surgery. She could feel the warmth from his body, see the determination in his eyes that she had completely underestimated. For a moment, something electric passed between them. David's eyes dropped to Maya's lips, and her heart started pounding, not from anger this time. He leaned in slightly. "Dr. Chen!" The nurse's voice broke the moment like a splash of cold water. "Your mother just arrived." The panic on David's face made Maya instantly forget everything that had just happened. He turned pale and began pulling off his coat in a frenzy. "Where is she?" he asked nervously. "At the main reception. She said she's here for a surprise visit to her son's office," the nurse replied with a mischievous grin. David looked at Maya in desperation. Would it be possible?" "What?" Maya asked, still trying to process what had almost happened between them. "Pretend to be my secretary? Just for a few minutes, until I can get her out of here?" Maya raised an eyebrow. "You want me to lie to your mother?" "Please," David begged, and the vulnerability in his voice dissolved any resistance she might have had. Minutes later, Maya was behind a makeshift desk, trying to look professional as a perfectly groomed, elegant woman scanned the room with a sharp eye. "Mrs. Chen," Maya said with her best fake smile, "it's a pleasure to meet you." David's mother studied her carefully. She was a small woman, but her presence filled the entire space. She wore expensive clothes and understated jewelry, but her eyes were as sharp as blades. "You must be new here," Mrs. Chen said in a tone that wasn't quite a question. "I don't recall seeing you at any company meetings." "Yes, ma'am. I started recently," Maya lied, hoping her lack of secretarial skills wasn't too obvious. "Where's my son? David should be in his office at this time." "He's in an important meeting. With investors." Mrs. Chen nodded approvingly. "Good. I hope you're focusing on business and not wasting time with other things." Just then David walked in wearing a perfectly tailored suit, looking completely transformed. Maya barely recognized him. Where was the shy doctor in his white coat? "Mom," he said, kissing her on the cheek. "What a wonderful surprise." "David, dear, we need to talk about your future at the company, and about that lovely young woman I want you to meet, the Morrison girl." Maya saw David swallow hard, but he kept smiling. "Of course, Mom. Let's go to my office." As they walked away, Maya heard Mrs. Chen say, "It's time for you to take on your real responsibilities, David. Marry into a good family. Focus on the business. Enough of this phase of wanting to help people." You have an empire to run." Maya felt a strange ache in her chest. She had judged David for hiding his wealth, but now she understood the weight he carried, the pressure from a family that didn't understand his dreams. Her phone rang, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was Sophia. "Maya, I need to tell you something important about Diego." Her sister's voice sounded different. Worried. Maya felt a chill in her stomach. "What happened, Sophia?" I'm pregnant, Maya. And Diego, he disappeared again when I told him." Maya closed her eyes, feeling that familiar anger rise. But this time, it wasn't aimed at David. It was her twin brother who truly deserved her fury. "Where are you?" she asked, already getting up. "At home. Maya, I don't know what to do. He said he needed to think and left, just like the first time." Maya looked in the direction David had gone with his mother. Two men, opposite sides of the same coin. One took on too much responsibility, the other ran from it. Maya ran through the streets of Boston like never before. Not even during the toughest military training had she felt this kind of urgency burning in her chest. Sophia was pregnant and alone, and Maya felt responsible for not protecting her better. When she got to the small apartment they shared, she found Sophia curled up on the couch, eyes red from crying. The sight broke Maya's heart. "Hey, sweetie," she said gently, sitting next to her and pulling her into a hug. "Tell me everything." Sophia sobbed into Maya's shoulder. "I told him last night. We were having dinner. I was so happy, thinking he'd be excited." She paused to breathe. But when I mentioned the baby, his face completely changed. He said he wasn't ready, that he needed to think, and walked out. He never came back. Maya felt the anger rise again, but forced herself to stay calm for her sister. "How far along are you?" 2 months. "I've known for a few weeks, but I wanted to be sure before telling him." Maya held her sister's hands. "Sophia, you're not alone. I'm here, and I always will be." "But Maya, what if he doesn't come back? What if I have to raise this baby on my own? I haven't even finished college yet." Before Maya could answer, her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. "Hello? Maya, it's David. David Chen." His voice sounded tense, almost like a whisper. "David? How did you get my number?" "I got it from the nurse. Listen, I need help. My mother's been at the hospital for 2 hours, and she's starting to ask questions about why she can't find me in the executive office." Maya looked at Sophia, who had stopped crying and was listening with curiosity. "David, this really isn't a good time. My sister is—" "Please," he interrupted, and she could hear the desperation in his voice. "She's threatening to do a full tour of the hospital. If she finds out I work as a regular doctor," Maya sighed. Despite everything, she felt a strange urge to help him. "All right, but only for a few minutes." Sophia grabbed her arm. "Maya, who's this David?" "It's complicated. Stay here, I'll be back soon." 20 minutes later, Maya was back at the hospital, pretending to be a secretary again in the same administrative office. Mrs. Chen looked even more elegant and intimidating than she had that morning. "So, Miss?" Mrs. Chen left the question hanging. "Maya Rodriguez," she answered, trying to sound professional. "Rodriguez? Interesting. Where are you from?" "Born and raised here in Boston, ma'am. Military family." Mrs. Chen's eyes lit up with interest. "Military? What branch?" "Air Force. I used to be a pilot." "A pilot?" Mrs. Chen seemed genuinely impressed. "How fascinating. A woman in the military aviation field. Your parents must be very proud." Maya felt a twinge. "My dad? Well, he always wanted a son. I kind of had to prove I was just as capable as any soldier." "Ah," Mrs. Chen nodded in understanding. "I completely understand. I had to fight to be respected in the business world too. It's hard for us women, isn't it?" For a moment, Maya saw past the intimidating exterior and glimpsed a woman who had fought her own battles. Just then, David walked into the office, still dressed like an executive. Maya noticed how he changed completely in his mother's presence, more stiff, less natural. "Mom, how's the visit going?" "Very well, dear. Your secretary is lovely. A military pilot, can you imagine?" David looked at Maya, surprised. She gave a subtle shrug. "David," Mrs. Chen continued, "we need to talk about your future. You're already 30. It's time to take full control of the company and think about starting a family." Maya saw David swallow hard. "Mom, I've already scheduled a dinner so you can get to know Sarah Morrison better. She has a business degree from Harvard, comes from a respectable family. She'd be perfect for you." "Mom, I don't want an arranged marriage." "It's not arranged, dear. It's strategic. You need a wife who understands the business world, someone who can support you socially. Maya watched the tension building in David's face. It was like watching someone slowly being smothered. And about your work, Mrs. Chen went on, I hope you're focusing on executive decisions and not getting distracted by less important activities. Less important activities? David asked, his voice slightly tense. Well, your father also had that habit of wanting to help people, but he learned that our role is to run the company, not to do hands-on work. Maya saw something break in David's expression, a light going out. Of course, Mom, I understand. Just then, the phone on the desk rang. It was the hospital's direct line. Maya instinctively picked it up. Dr. Chen's office. Maya? This is the head nurse. We need Dr. Chen urgently. There's a patient in cardiac arrest in the ICU. Maya looked at David, who had turned pale. He looked at his mother, then at Maya, clearly torn. Tell them he's in a meeting, Mrs. Wat Chen muttered. Medical emergencies aren't his responsibility. But Maya saw something in David's eyes, the same fire she'd seen when he spoke about his calling. She made a decision. He's on his way down, she said into the phone. David looked at her in shock. Mrs. Chen frowned. Down where? His mother asked. Maya stood up, firm. Mrs. Chen, your son is the best doctor I've ever met. He saves lives every day. That's not hands-on work. It's a gift. Miss Rodriguez, I don't think you understand. I understand perfectly, Maya interrupted, her courage rising. I understand that you have an extraordinary son who could be rich without lifting a finger, but instead chooses to work 18-hour days saving people. That's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to be proud of. The silence in the office was deafening. David looked at Maya with an expression she couldn't quite read. David, Mrs. Chen said slowly, do you really work as a doctor? David took a deep breath. Yes, Mom, I do, and I love my work. But the company is running just fine. I have an excellent executive team, but I need to be a doctor. It's who I am. Mrs. Chen looked from her son to Maya, trying to take it all in. And you, she said to Maya, you're not really a secretary, are you? No, ma'am. I'm an Air Force pilot, and I'm here because I admire your son and wanted to support him. Just then, Maya's cell phone rang. It was Sophia. Maya, where are you? I need you here. Maya looked at David, who nodded for her to go. Go, he said softly. Your sister needs you. But your mother. We'll talk, like we should have a long time ago. Maya paused at the door. David, what you said about me being afraid to be vulnerable, you were right, but you showed me that sometimes it's worth fighting for the people we love. She left before he could answer, leaving mother and son alone to face years of unspoken truths. When she got home, she found Sophia crying again, but this time she wasn't alone. There was a man in the apartment, identical to David, but with a completely different presence. Maya, Sophia said through tears, Diego's back. The man turned around, and Maya saw David's face, but with a look she'd never seen on the doctor, a mix of arrogance and unease. You must be the soldier sister, Diego said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Sophia's told me a lot about you. Maya studied the man in front of her. Same face, same height, but none of David's warmth. This was the man who had hurt her sister. Twice. You must be the coward who runs when things get serious, Maya shot back, feeling her protective instincts kicking in. Diego Chen laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. It was the kind of laugh people use when they're trying to feel superior. Soldiers, huh? Just like my twin brother, always thinking he's better than everyone else. Sophia stood up from the couch, wiping her tears. Diego, you promised we'd talk about the baby. And we will, he said, but Maya noticed how he avoided meeting Sophia's eyes. I just need some time to sort things out. Time? Maya burst out. You've already had 2 months? Sophia is pregnant and scared and you want more time? Diego turned to her, clearly annoyed. Listen, soldier girl, this is between me and Sophia. It's none of your business. It is my business. Maya stepped forward, her military training kicking in. Sophia is my sister, and if you hurt her again, you'll have to deal with me. Maya, please. Sophia stepped in between them. Let him explain. Diego ran a hand through his hair, looking genuinely troubled. Sophia, you don't get it. I'm not like my brother. I'm not good with responsibilities. Every time I try to do the right thing, I mess it all up. Then learn, Maya snapped. She's not asking for perfection, just for you to show up. You don't understand. Diego shouted, and for the first time Maya saw real vulnerability behind the arrogance. My whole life I've been compared to David. He's always been the perfect son, the brilliant doctor, the one who never lets anyone down. I'm the failure in the family. Maya looked at his face, so much like David's, yet carrying a different kind of weight. Where David carried heavy expectations, Diego carried the weight of never meeting them. That's no excuse for walking out on Sofia, Maya said, though her voice was less harsh now. I know, Diego murmured. I know I'm a coward, but what if I mess up the baby's life too? What if I'm a terrible father? Sofia stepped closer, gently touching his face. Diego, I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to try. Just then Maya's phone rang. It was David. Maya, are you okay? His voice sounded concerned, and Maya felt a warmth spread through her chest. I'm okay. How did it go with your mother? Complicated but eye-opening. Listen, can I see you? I need to talk. Maya looked over at Sofia and Diego, who were now sitting together on the couch, talking quietly. I can't leave right now. My sister needs me. Is it about Diego? Did he show up? He did. They're talking now. There was a pause. Maya, can I come over? Maybe I can help. Diego and I, well, we're complicated, but he's still my brother. Maya hesitated. Having both brothers in the same room could be explosive. Okay, but if you're coming to judge him, I'm not. I promise. 20 minutes later, David was at the door. Maya was surprised to see him still in his business suit, with his white coat over it, like it was his armor. Hi, he said softly. Hi, Maya replied, feeling oddly shy. When David walked into the room, Diego immediately stood up. The tension between them was obvious. David, Diego said, his voice guarded. Diego, David replied, without hostility. Sofia glanced between the two identical men and whispered to Maya, It's so strange seeing them together. Diego, David began, Maya told me what's going on. Are you okay? The question caught Diego off guard. He clearly expected judgment, not concern. Since when do you care about how I'm doing? Diego replied, though with less bite. I've always cared, David said calmly. You're the one who never wanted my help. Your help, Diego laughed bitterly. David, every time you help me, it just reminds everyone how much of a failure I am compared to you. Maya saw David flinch, like he'd been hit. Diego, I never wanted you to feel that way. No? Then how should I feel? You're a Harvard-trained doctor, running a hospital empire, saving lives every day. I can't even keep a job for 6 months. And you think my life is easy? David snapped, surprising everyone. You think it's easy being perfect all the time? Never being allowed to fail? Never just being human? Diego blinked, clearly not expecting that response. Every time I make a mistake, David went on, it's not just a mistake, it's the mistake of the perfect son. Every time I let someone down, it's worse, because I should have known better. Maya looked at both brothers and saw something she hadn't noticed before. They weren't opposites, they were two sides of the same coin. Both carried the weight of family expectations, just in different ways. You two are idiots, she suddenly said. Everyone turned to look at her. You two spent your whole lives competing instead of supporting each other. David, you carry guilt for being successful. Diego, you carry anger for not being like your brother. But you never really tried to know each other. Sofia nodded firmly. Maya's right, you're brothers. You should be on the same side. Diego looked at David, then at Sofia. I don't know how to be a good father. I don't know how to be responsible. No one is born knowing, David said gently. But you can learn, and you don't have to do it alone. Would you help me? Diego asked, his voice quiet. Of course, we're brothers. Maya felt her eyes fill with tears. There was something beautiful about seeing two people who loved each other finally understand one another. But the moment was interrupted by David's phone ringing urgently. Dr. Chen? We've got an emergency. Plane crash at Logan Airport. Multiple victims coming in. We need you now. David turned pale. How many victims? 15 confirmed. More still being rescued. It's serious, doctor. David hung up and looked at Maya. I have to go. Of course, she said. But something in his face worried her. Maya? He hesitated at the door. Could you, if it's not too much to ask? What is it? Would you come with me? I know it's a strange request, but I do better when you're around. Maya's heart skipped a beat. David, I'm not a doctor. I can't help with the patients. That's not it. It's just, you give me strength. You remind me why I do this. Maya looked at Sofia, who nodded encouragingly. Go, Maya. Diego and I will be fine. We still have a lot to talk about. Diego nodded. And Maya, thank you for taking care of her when I was too much of a coward to do it. Maya nodded and followed David out of the apartment. They ran to his car in silence, but when they got to the hospital, David paused before going in. Maya, there's something I need to tell you. What is it? Earlier, when you defended my work to my mother, no one's ever done that for me before. Maya felt her cheeks warm. David? And when you said I give you strength, it goes both ways. You give me strength too. They looked at each other for a moment that felt like it lasted forever. There was something growing between them, something neither of them could name yet. Dr. Chen? A nurse shouted from the entrance. We need you. The moment broke, but David quickly held Maya's hand. Stay? He asked. Yes, she replied, and together they ran to face the emergency waiting for them. But Maya didn't know that in the next few hours, it wouldn't be just the crash victims who would need saving. Her own military career was about to be put at risk in a way she never imagined. The hospital was in total chaos. Ambulances arrived one after the other, sirens cutting through the Boston night like cries of despair. Maya followed David through the hallways, amazed at his transformation. The shy man had completely disappeared, replaced by a focused and determined professional. Dr. Chen, a nurse, ran up to them. We have 15 confirmed victims, 3 in critical condition, 2 children among the injured. David nodded, already putting on gloves and a mask. Where are the most serious cases? Emergency rooms 1 and 2. One of the children needs immediate heart surgery. Maya saw David take a deep breath. I'll operate. Prep the OR. David, Maya touched his arm before he ran off. You can do this. He looked at her, and for a moment she saw the vulnerable man behind the medical mask. Stay close. I'm not going anywhere. Maya spent the next 4 hours watching David work. It was like watching a perfect dance. Every move precise, every decision exact. He saved the child who needed heart surgery, operated on a man with internal injuries, and still found time to comfort desperate families. When he finally finished, it was past 3 a.m. David stepped out of the last operating room, exhausted but smiling. We did it, he told Maya. Everyone's gonna make it. You're amazing, Maya said, and saw David blush even through his exhaustion. But the moment was broken by a stern voice. Captain Rodriguez! Maya turned and saw Colonel Thompson, her direct superior, walking toward her with a serious look. Colonel, what are you doing here? I came to check on the crash victims. It was a military plane, Captain, and I have bad news about your situation. Maya's stomach sank. What situation? The final report on the incident from 2 weeks ago is complete. You're being held responsible for the protocol error that nearly caused a collision. But Colonel, I followed all the procedures. The facts say otherwise, Captain. Your flight clearance has been suspended indefinitely. You have 48 hours to report to the base for a disciplinary hearing. Maya felt the world spin around her. She had dedicated her entire life to military aviation. It was all she knew how to do, everything she was. Colonel, please, there must be some mistake. There is no mistake, Captain. And I suggest you use these 48 hours to reflect on your actions. The colonel walked away, leaving Maya standing in the hospital hallway, feeling like she had just been punched in the stomach. David approached, looking concerned. Maya? What happened? I lost my clearance, she whispered, still in disbelief. They're blaming me for an accident that wasn't my fault. What do you mean? Maya leaned against the wall, her legs suddenly weak. 2 weeks ago, there was a near miss between 2 military planes. I was in the control tower that day. Someone gave a wrong order, but they're blaming me. David stepped closer. Are you sure it wasn't you? Maya looked at him, hurt. You think I made the mistake too? No, David said quickly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. It's just, well, there's always a reason behind these investigations. There is, Maya said bitterly. The reason is they need someone to blame, and a female pilot is an easy target. David went quiet, clearly not sure what to say. Forget it, Maya said, stepping away. You wouldn't understand. You've never had to prove you deserve your place. Maya, wait. But she was already walking toward the hospital exit. She needed air. She needed to think. Her entire career, everything she had fought for, was falling apart. Outside the hospital, Maya sat on the steps and finally let the tears fall. She hadn't cried since she was a child, but now she couldn't stop. Maya, she looked up and saw David approaching with 2 cups of coffee. Thought you might need this, he said, handing her one. Thanks, she murmured, taking the cup but avoiding his eyes. David sat beside her on the steps. Do you want to talk about what really happened? Maya sighed. I was working a double shift that day. The other controller called out sick at the last minute. It was 2 training planes with rookie pilots. One of them flew into the wrong airspace, and I gave the right coordinates to correct it. But someone, I don't know who, gave a conflicting order on the secondary radio. And they're blaming you? They say I should have double-checked all communication channels. That it was negligence on my part. Maya gave a humorless laugh. 10 years of perfect service and one confusing situation ruins everything. David was quiet for a moment. What if I told you I could help find out what really happened? Maya looked at him skeptically. How? I have contacts, people who owe favors to my family. I can ask a few quiet questions. David, you don't have to. I want to, he cut in. You stood up for my right to choose my career. Let me stand up for yours. Maya felt a warmth spread in her chest. Why would you do that for me? David hesitated, looking at his hands. Because you're the first person who sees me for who I really am. Not the rich heir, not the perfect son, not the famous doctor, just David. They looked at each other, and Maya felt that electric tension again. David leaned in slightly. Dr. Chen. The nurse's voice interrupted them again. Emergency. We have a patient needing urgent transport to New York. Heart transplant, 6-hour window. David jumped up from the steps. What's the issue? Heavy storm coming. All commercial flights have been canceled. We need a pilot willing to fly in these conditions. Maya and David looked at each other at the same time. No, David said immediately. You don't have your license anymore. For military flights, Maya corrected. I can still fly civilian aircraft in medical emergencies. Maya, it's dangerous. The storm. This is a human life, David. And didn't you say you work better when I'm around? Well, I work better when I can save lives. Let me help you save this one. David studied her for a long moment. Are you sure? Completely. An hour later, Maya was in the cockpit of a small medical aircraft, checking the instruments as the rain started to hit the windshield. David was behind her, monitoring the patient, a 50-year-old man in induced coma, kept alive by machines. Ready? David asked, his voice tense. Born ready, Maya replied, starting the engines. Takeoff was smooth, but as they flew toward New York, the storm grew stronger. The plane shook violently, and Maya had to use all her experience to keep it steady. How's the patient? She shouted over the storm. Stable, but we need to get him to the hospital within 3 hours or it'll be too late. A strong gust of wind suddenly made the plane drop. Maya heard David hit the side of the medical cabin. David, are you okay? I'm fine. Keep flying. Maya gripped the controls tightly. This was the kind of storm even experienced pilots tried to avoid. But a life was on the line, and David was counting on her. Maya, David's voice came through, calmer now. Can I tell you something? Right now? I need to say it, in case we don't, well, in case something happens. Maya's heart sped up, but she kept her eyes on the instruments. Go ahead. I was never good enough for my mother. No matter what I do, I always feel like I'm letting someone down. But when I'm with you, for the first time in my life, I feel like I can just be myself. Maya felt her eyes fill with tears, though she didn't know if it was emotion or the harsh wind. David? And you, he went on, you're the bravest person I know. Not because you're a soldier, but because you fight for the people you love. Like you fought for Sophia, like you're fighting now for a patient you've never even met. David, you're making me cry and I need to see the instruments. She heard him laugh, even in the middle of the storm. Sorry, it's just that. Maya, I think I'm falling in love with you. His words hit Maya like lightning. She almost lost control of the plane. You what? I'm in love with you. And if we make it through this, I want a chance to prove I deserve you. Maya saw New York's lights break through the clouds. 15 minutes to landing. David? Yes? Ask me again when we're on the ground. Why? Because my answer might distract you from the patient. She heard him laugh again, and somehow, even in the most dangerous storm of her career, Maya had never felt so safe. Maya landed the plane in New York with skill, even as the storm howled around them. Her hands were slightly shaking as she shut off the engines, but not from fear, pure adrenaline. They had made it. The patient was on time. Incredible, David whispered behind her, watching her shut down the instruments with military precision. You are absolutely incredible. Maya turned in the pilot's seat, finally letting a smile cross her face. Ask me again. What? What you said during the flight. Ask me again. David swallowed hard, suddenly nervous again. Maya Rodriguez, I'm completely in love with you, and I want to know if you might feel something similar for me. Maya got out of her seat and walked over to him, ignoring the noise of the medical team rushing to take the patient. Without warning, she pulled David close and kissed him. The kiss was intense, filled with all the emotion they'd been holding back since they met. David responded right away, his hands on Maya's face as she leaned into him. That's my answer, Maya whispered against his lips when they paused to breathe. Dr. Chen, we need to move the patient now. The paramedic's urgent voice pulled them apart. David stepped back from Maya, reluctant. Can we finish this later? Count on it, she said, watching him run to help with the transfer. 3 hours later, they were back in Boston. The transplant had been a success, and David was elated. Maya had never seen him so animated and talkative. You saved a life today, he said as they walked through the hospital parking lot. If you hadn't had the courage to fly through that storm. We saved a life, Maya corrected him. We make a good team. David stopped walking and pulled her into a hug right there in the lot. Maya, The flash of a camera cut him off. They quickly separated and saw a man with a professional camera taking pictures near the hospital's landing pad. Hey, David shouted. What are you doing? The photographer smiled unpleasantly. Getting the photo of the year, Dr. Chen, or should I say billionaire David Chen? Maya felt her blood run cold. David, who is this guy? Tabloid journalist from the Boston Buzz, David replied, looking defeated. They love following my family. The photographer kept snapping pictures. Heir to the Chen fortune in a secret romance with a military pilot. This'll be tomorrow's headline. Don't publish that, David said, trying to stay calm. I'll pay whatever you want. Oh no, Dr. Chen, this story's worth more than any bribe. The man packed up his camera and ran off. Maya looked at David, whose face had turned pale. David, what does this mean? It means, he said heavily, that our private life will be on the front page of every Boston paper tomorrow morning. And she was. Maya woke up to her phone ringing nonstop. When she finally answered, it was Sophia, sounding frantic. Maya, did you see the newspaper? You're on the front page. Maya rushed to buy the Boston Buzz at the corner newsstand. The headline screamed in bold letters, Secret Romance. Billionaire, heir, and military pilot in hot affair. The photo showed her and David kissing on the hospital helipad, with a caption that read, David Chen, heir to the Chen Medical Group fortune, caught in an intimate moment with Air Force Captain Maya Rodriguez. Maya's phone rang again. It was David. Maya, did you see it? I did. David, this is terrible. It gets worse. My mom just called. She's furious. Because of our relationship? Because of everything. She found out I've been working as a doctor, found out about you, found out I've been lying to her for years. Maya felt a knot of guilt in her stomach. David, I'm so sorry. If I hadn't... It's not your fault. He cut her off. It was only a matter of time before the truth came out. What did your mother say? There was a long pause. That I'm out of the company. That if I choose to work as a regular doctor and date unsuitable people, I can do it without the family's money. Maya felt like she had been punched in the gut. David, no. You can't lose everything because of me. Maya, you don't understand. I don't want the money if it comes with those conditions. But before Maya could reply, her phone rang again. It was Colonel Thompson. Captain Rodriguez, you need to report to base immediately. Colonel, I can explain. No explanation needed, Captain. Your photo is in every paper in town. A military pilot in a public relationship with a billionaire civilian raises national security concerns. Maya felt the world spinning. Security concerns? Report to my office in 1 hour, Captain, and bring your uniform. You may need to turn it in. The call ended. Maya stared at her phone, feeling her military career falling apart completely. An hour later, she was in Colonel Thompson's office, feeling smaller than ever in the uniform she had worn with pride for 10 years. Captain Rodriguez, the colonel began, this situation is unacceptable. Colonel, My personal life doesn't interfere with my work. Doesn't interfere? You're dating a man with access to military medical information, government contracts, and international connections. That's a security risk. David never had access to any military information through me. Also, the colonel continued, ignoring her words, you flew last night without official authorization. It was a medical emergency. It was a breach of protocol, combined with the previous incident and now this public exposure. The colonel paused. I'm recommending your dishonorable discharge from the Air Force. Maya felt her knees go weak. A dishonorable discharge meant losing all benefits, all reputation, everything. Colonel, please, the Air Force is my life. You should have thought of that before getting involved with unsuitable people. Maya left the military base 2 hours later, carrying a box of her personal belongings. 10 years of military service had ended in a single morning. When she got home, she found David waiting at the building entrance. He looked just as devastated. Maya, how did it go? I was fired, dishonorably discharged. She couldn't even look at him. And you? Disinherited, officially removed from all positions at the company. My mother said if I want to be a doctor, I can, but not with a cent of the family's money. They sat on the steps of the building, two people who had lost everything in a single day. David, Maya finally said, this can't go on. What do you mean? Look at us. You lost your inheritance, I lost my career. Maybe we shouldn't be together. David turned to her, shocked. Maya, you can't be serious. I am. We've known each other for a week. Is it worth destroying our lives over this? It is, David said firmly. Maya, for the first time in my life, I'm truly happy. I don't care about the money. I don't care about my family's approval. I care about you. Maya felt the tears start to fall. David, you don't understand. Without my military career, I'm nothing. It's all I know how to do. You're so much more than your career, David said, taking her hands. You're brave, smart, loyal, strong. Stop, Maya interrupted, standing up. Stop trying to comfort me. The truth is, we both lost everything, and now we're clinging to each other like that's going to fix it. David stood up too. Maya, you're scared. I get that. But don't let fear destroy what we have. What do we have? Maya laughed bitterly. David, we've known each other for a week and shared 2 kisses. That's not enough to throw your life away. It is for me, David said simply. Maya looked at him, the man who had walked away from billions for her, who had risked everything to be by her side, and felt her heart breaking. I can't, David. I can't be the reason your life falls apart. You're not ruining anything. You're giving me a chance to really live. But Maya was already climbing the stairs to the building. We should take a break, David, until things settle down. Maya, don't do this. She stopped at the door, but didn't turn around. Thank you for everything, David. Truly. But right now, I need to figure out who I am without the uniform, and you need to figure out who you are without your family's money. Maya stepped inside, leaving David alone on the steps. On the other side of the door, she leaned against it and finally let herself cry. Outside, David stood still for a long time, staring at the closed door. When he finally walked away, his face showed quiet determination. He had lost Maya. For now. But he wasn't giving up. Not ever. 3 weeks had passed since Maya had closed the door on David. 3 of the hardest weeks of her life. Without her military career and without him, she felt lost in a city that suddenly felt strange and cold. Maya was working night shifts at a small diner in downtown Boston, waiting tables to pay the rent. Her hands, once used to piloting military planes, now carried plates of food and wiped down messy tables. Table 6 wants more coffee, the cook shouted, and Maya sighed, grabbing the thermal carafe. As she turned to head to the table, she almost spilled the coffee. David was sitting alone at table 6 with dark circles under his eyes and wrinkled clothes. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. David? Maya whispered. What are you doing here? Having coffee, he said simply, and trying to see you. It's been 3 weeks. Maya looked around nervously. The restaurant manager was watching from the kitchen. You can't be here, she said quietly. I need to work. Then work. I just want some coffee. Maya filled his cup with trembling hands. How did you find me? Sophia told me where you're working. David took a sip and made a face. This coffee is awful. It's what we've got. Maya turned to leave, but David gently grabbed her wrist. Maya, please, just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I can't, miss, the manager shouted from the kitchen. Stop chatting with customers and get back to work. Maya pulled her hand from David's and hurried off. But all night long she could feel his eyes on her. He stayed until closing, drinking terrible coffee and leaving big tips Maya knew she couldn't accept. When her shift finally ended at 2 a.m, David was still waiting outside. Go home, David, Maya said, exhausted. There's nothing left to say. There is. Sophia's in the hospital. Maya stopped cold. What happened? Preterm labor. She's only 7 months along. Maya's blood ran cold. Is she okay, the baby? She needs an emergency C-section. Right now. But, David hesitated. But what? The doctor on duty doesn't have enough experience with premature birth, and David ran a hand through his hair. I was suspended from the hospital. Suspended? Why? For performing surgery without permission 3 weeks ago. Remember? When I saved your sister the first time Diego disappeared. Maya felt the world tilt. David, no, you lost your job because of me? That doesn't matter now. What matters is Sophia. She's asking for you and the baby. Maya, if I don't operate, they could both die. Maya didn't hesitate. Then you're gonna operate. I can't. I'm suspended. If I get caught, I lose my medical license forever. And if you don't, my sister and my nephew die. Maya looked him straight in the eyes. David, you're the best doctor I know. Sophia trusts you. I trust you. David studied her for a long moment. If I do this, there's no going back. My medical career will be over. And if you don't, 2 lives will be gone. It's your choice. 20 minutes later, Maya was running through the hospital corridors beside David. They came in through the emergency entrance, avoiding the main lobby where David might be recognized. Sophia was in the delivery room, pale and terrified. Diego was holding her hand, looking even more scared than she was. Maya, Sophia cried out when she saw her. You came. Of course I did, silly. Maya kissed her sister's forehead. How are you feeling? Scared, Sophia admitted. It's too early, Maya. What if something goes wrong? Maya turned to look at David, who was already checking the medical monitors. Nothing's going to go wrong, Maya said firmly. You have the best doctor in the world right here. But the doctor said he's not allowed to. Sophia, David interrupted gently. Do you want me to take care of you and the baby? More than anything. Then that's what I'm going to do. David turned to Maya. You need to go. If they find out you brought me here. I'm not going anywhere, Maya said. My sister needs me. The surgery lasted 2 tense hours. Maya stayed by Sophia's side the entire time, holding her hand and whispering words of comfort. Diego stood on the other side, pale but determined not to leave. David worked with his usual precision, but Maya could see the tension in his shoulders. A nurse who recognized him tried to protest, but David simply said, You can report me later. Right now, help me save these 2 lives. When the baby's cry finally echoed through the room, Maya felt tears run down her face. It's a boy, David announced, holding the tiny but healthy newborn. And he's perfect. Sophia cried with joy, and Diego kissed her forehead over and over. Thank you, Sophia whispered to David. Thank you for saving my son. David smiled, but Maya saw the sadness in his eyes. They both knew consequences were coming, and they came faster than expected. As David was finishing Sophia's stitches, the hospital administrator walked into the room with 2 security guards. Dr. David Chen, the administrator said formally, You're under arrest for practicing medicine without a license. Maya stood up immediately. He just saved 2 lives and broke an official suspension. Dr. Chen, I need you to come with us. David calmly removed his surgical gloves. Can I at least say goodbye to the patient? The administrator hesitated, then nodded. David stepped closer to Sophia. You and the baby will be fine. Follow all the medical instructions and get plenty of rest. David, Sophia held his hand. Thank you. You risked everything for us. It was worth it, he said simply. As David turned to leave with the guards, Maya stopped him. David, wait. He turned to her, and Maya saw all the love and all the pain in his eyes. She started, but couldn't find the words. I know, David said softly. Take care of Sophia, and take care of yourself too. Maya watched them lead David away, feeling her heart completely break. She had spent the last 3 weeks trying to convince herself she didn't love him, but seeing him give up his medical career for her family had shattered all her defenses. Maya? Sophia called weakly from the bed. Are you okay? Maya turned to her sister, trying to smile. I'm fine. How are you feeling? Tired but happy. Sophia looked at the baby in Diego's arms. Maya, that man really loves you. I know. Then why aren't you going after him? Maya sat in the chair beside the bed. Because he lost everything because of me, Sophia. The inheritance, his job, and now his medical license. I ruined his life. Or, Sophia said gently, you gave him the chance to find out who he really is. Diego, who had been quiet until then, finally spoke up. Maya, can I say something? Of course. My brother spent his whole life trying to please everyone. I've never seen him so free as he's been these last few weeks, even without money, even with all the problems. What do you mean, free? Free to be who he really is, free to choose what truly matters. Diego looked down at the baby in his arms. You taught me that running away from problems doesn't fix anything. Maybe it's time for you to learn the same lesson. Maya looked at her newborn nephew, so small, yet already breathing strong and steady. A new life that David had helped bring into the world, knowing full well the price he'd pay. Sophia, she said finally, are you okay here with Diego? Why? Where are you going? Maya stood, feeling that old sense of purpose rising in her chest. I'm going after the man I love, and I'm going to fight for him the same way he fought for us. Sophia smiled. Now that's the Maya I know. Maya kissed her sister and her nephew, waved to Diego, and ran out of the hospital. She had a medical hearing to attend and a man to fight for. For the first time in weeks, she felt like the brave military pilot she had always been. And this time, the mission was to save the heart that had saved hers. The medical board hearing was scheduled for 9 a.m. at the Massachusetts Medical Association headquarters. Maya arrived an hour early, still wearing her restaurant uniform, but with a determination she hadn't felt in weeks. The building was imposing, all marble and glass, as intimidating as a courtroom. Maya took a deep breath and walked in, her footsteps echoing through the empty lobby. May I help you? Asked the receptionist, glancing curiously at her waitress outfit. I'm here for Dr. David Chen's hearing, Maya said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. The hearing is closed, only for board members and the accused. I'm a witness, Maya lied boldly. A defense witness. The receptionist checked a list. I don't see your name here. Maya Rodriguez, Captain, U.S. Air Force, Maya said, using her former rank with firm authority. I was called in at the last minute. Something in her tone must have convinced the receptionist, because she pointed down the hallway. Room 205, second floor. Maya climbed the stairs with her heart pounding. She had no idea what she was going to say, but she knew she couldn't let David face this alone. When she got to the room, the hearing was already underway. David was seated at a table in the center of the room, wearing a plain suit with no lawyer. Surrounding him were 5 doctors in expensive suits, watching him like judges. Dr. Chen, said the board chairman, a gray-haired man with a stern expression, do you admit to performing surgery while under official suspension? I do, David replied calmly. Do you understand that this is a serious violation of medical ethics? I understand. Maya felt anger rising. David wasn't even defending himself. Do you have anything to say in your defense? Asked another board member. David was quiet for a moment. I do. A woman and her baby were dying. I had the skill to save them. I did what any doctor should do. But you were no longer a practicing doctor at that time, the chairman shot back. You were suspended. A piece of paper doesn't change who I am, David said firmly. I might lose my license, I might lose my job, but I won't lose my conscience. That's when Maya couldn't stay quiet any longer. She stood up from her seat in the back of the room. Excuse me, she said loudly, making everyone turn to look at her. And who are you? The chairman asked, clearly irritated by the interruption. Maya Rodriguez, and I want to testify on Dr. Chen's behalf. David turned and saw her, his eyes wide with surprise, and something that looked like hope. Miss Rodriguez, this hearing does not allow witness testimony. Well, maybe it should, Maya interrupted, walking to the front of the room with all the military confidence she could summon. You're judging the best doctor I've ever met without hearing from the people he's saved. Miss, please. Sophia Rodriguez is my sister, Maya went on, ignoring the protests. She went into premature labor. She and the baby were both in danger. The doctor on duty didn't have enough experience. David Chen risked his career to save them. She turned to look at David, then faced the board again. You want to take away the license of a man who put human lives above his own safety? A man who works 18-hour days, treats poor patients for free, and never turns down an emergency? Miss Rodriguez, the chairman tried to interrupt again, but Maya was on fire. 3 weeks ago, this man flew with me through a dangerous storm to deliver a heart for a transplant. He saved that life too, and now you want to punish him for doing what doctors are supposed to do, save lives. One of the board members leaned forward. Miss, we understand your gratitude, but rules exist for a reason. Rules? Maya laughed bitterly. Let me tell you about rules. I served 10 years in the Air Force. I followed rules my whole life. And I lost my career because I chose to fly a medical emergency mission while technically suspended. She motioned toward David. This man lost everything too, his inheritance, his position in the family company, and now you want to take away his medical license. Why? Because he saves lives? The room was completely silent. Maya took a deep breath and continued, her voice softer now. David Chen is the son of billionaires. He could be lying on a beach somewhere, spending money. Instead, he chose to work as a regular doctor, hiding his wealth so people would love him for who he is, not for what he has. She looked directly at the board chairman. How many doctors do you know who give up billions to work in public hospitals? How many risk everything to save strangers? That's not the point. The chairman began. That is exactly the point, Maya burst out. You're punishing a man for being too much of a doctor, for caring too much, for putting the medical oath above red tape. She turned to David, who was watching her with a mix of admiration, love, and total shock. David Chen taught me that being brave doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means doing the right thing even when you are. He was afraid of losing his license, but he operated anyway because 2 lives depended on him. Maya turned to the board one last time. If you revoke his license, you'll be sending a terrible message to every doctor out there that following rules matters more than saving lives, that protecting your career is more important than protecting your patients. She paused, letting the words sink in. Sofia Rodriguez is alive today. My nephew, Nicholas Rodriguez Chen, is alive today. Because of this man. If that doesn't matter to you, then maybe you're the ones who don't deserve to be doctors. The silence that followed was overwhelming. Maya could hear her own heartbeat. She had said everything she felt, and now all she could do was wait. Finally, the chairman of the board spoke. Miss Rodriguez, thank you for your heartfelt statement. Dr. Chen, would you like to add anything? David stood up slowly. Yes, I would. He looked directly at Maya. For years, I tried to be the perfect son, the perfect doctor, the perfect person. It never worked, because I was trying to please everyone but myself. He turned to face the board. When I operated on Sofia Rodriguez, I wasn't thinking about my license. I wasn't thinking about my career. I was thinking about a young mother and a baby who needed help. And if you're asking me if I'd do it again, he paused. I would, every time. David looked back at Maya. Maya taught me that some things are more important than being safe. Some battles are worth fighting, even if you lose everything. He took a deep breath. If you revoke my license, I'll accept it, but I'll still find other ways to help people. Because being a doctor isn't about having a certificate on the wall. It's about having compassion in your heart. The chairman whispered with the other board members for several tense minutes. At last, he stood. Dr. Chen, this board acknowledges that you violated protocols. However, we also recognize that your actions saved 2 lives. Maya held her breath. Therefore, we are issuing an official reprimand and placing you under 6 months of direct supervision, during which you will work under the oversight of a senior physician. Your license remains valid. Maya felt her legs go weak with relief. David had won. However, the chairman continued, you are permanently banned from working at any hospital within the Chen Medical Group network. David nodded. I understand. Thank you. When the hearing ended, Maya and David met in the hallway. For a moment, neither of them said a word. You came, David finally said. Of course I did. Why? Maya smiled, feeling tears in her eyes. Because you taught me that some people are worth fighting for. David stepped closer to her. Maya? David, I'm sorry, for running away, for giving up on us, he gently placed a finger on her lips. You didn't run. You were scared. There's a difference. And now, David smiled, that shy smile she had come to love. Now, you're here, fighting for me. Just like I always knew you would, once you were ready. Maya moved closer to him. David Chen, I love you. I love your courage, your kindness, your stubbornness, and always doing what's right. Maya Rodriguez, he whispered, will you marry me? The question caught her completely off guard. What? Marry me? Today, tomorrow, whenever you're ready. Just marry me. Maya looked at him, the man who had given up everything for her, who had risked his career to save her family, who loved her with a kind of passion that scared and moved her at the same time. Yes, she said, pulling him into a kiss right there in the hallway of the Massachusetts Medical Association. Yes, I'll marry you. A few months later, Boston General Hospital looked completely different. Maya walked through the halls she now knew like the back of her hand, noticing all the changes David had made since becoming the medical director of the new pediatric emergency wing. Dr. Chen is in room 3, said Nurse Sarah with a smile. In recent months, the whole team had grown used to Maya's daily visits. Maya found David finishing an exam on a 5-year-old girl who had broken her arm. He was wearing a regular lab coat now, by choice, not because he had to hide. Well, little warrior, David told the girl, you'll be just fine in 6 weeks, but no more climbing trees until then, okay? The girl giggled. Okay, Dr. David? Maya watched the scene with her heart full. David had found his place, working at a public hospital, earning a normal salary, but saving lives every day with a smile on his face. Hey, fiancé, David said when he saw her at the door. Hey, future husband, she replied, still getting used to the words. They left the hospital hand in hand. David had bought a small but cozy apartment just 2 blocks from the hospital. Maya had found a job as a flight instructor at a civil aviation school. It wasn't the Air Force, but she discovered she loved teaching young pilots to fall in love with the sky as much as she had. How was the rehearsal? David asked as they walked. Your mom and my dad almost argued over the flower colors. Maya laughed, but Sophia managed to calm them down. Over the past few months, their families had learned to get along. Mrs. Chen had finally visited David at the hospital and saw with her own eyes how happy he was. It would still take time for her to fully accept his choices, but she was trying. Colonel Rodriguez had been harder to win over. But when he met David and saw how he treated Maya, with respect, admiration, and real love, he started to accept that maybe his daughter had found a man worthy of her. And Diego? David asked. How's he handling being a double godfather? Maya smiled. Diego had changed a lot over the past few months. The arrival of his son had made him mature in a big way. He and Sophia had gotten married in a small ceremony at the hospital, with 1-month-old Nicholas in his mother's arms. Now Diego worked at a marketing firm, had a steady job, and had proven to be a dedicated, loving father. He's nervous, but happy. He said it's the first time he's doing something important without messing it up. They arrived at the apartment and found Sophia in the kitchen, trying to calm Nicholas, who was crying in Diego's arms. He won't stop crying, Diego said, looking desperate. I've tried everything. David stepped over and quickly checked the baby. It's colic. That's normal at his age. He showed Diego how to gently massage the baby's belly to ease the discomfort. Maya watched the 2 brothers working together, David teaching patiently, Diego learning with care. They'd finally found balance, supporting each other instead of competing. Maya, Sophia said, I need to show you something. She led Maya to the bedroom and opened a large box. Inside was the most beautiful wedding dress Maya had ever seen. Simple, elegant, perfect. Sophia, it's stunning, but it must have cost a fortune. Actually, said a voice behind them, it was a gift. Maya turned around and saw Mrs. Chen at the door, holding a shopping bag. Mrs. Chen, I didn't know you were here. David's mother entered the room with her usual grace, but there was a softness on her face that hadn't been there before. Maya, dear, may I speak with you? They sat in the living room while the men continued tending to the baby in the kitchen. Maya, Mrs. Chen began, I owe you an apology. An apology? For what? For judging you before I knew you. For trying to keep you and David apart. Mrs. Chen sighed. I spent so much time worrying about what was proper for my son that I nearly made him lose the best thing that ever happened to him. Maya felt her eyes fill with tears. Mrs. Chen? I went to the hospital last week. I saw David working, saw how the patients love him, how the staff respects him. I saw the happiness in his face. She took Maya's hands. He's never been as happy as he is with you. I'm happy with him too. I know, and that's why I want to give you something. Mrs. Chen opened the bag and pulled out a small blue velvet box. Inside was a vintage engagement ring, with a diamond surrounded by tiny sapphires. This ring belonged to my grandmother, then my mother, then to me. It's always been a Chen family tradition to pass it on to the daughter-in-law. She smiled. David doesn't know, but I want you to wear it tomorrow. Maya looked at the ring, then at Mrs. Straight Chen. I don't know what to say. Just promise me you'll take care of my son, and let him take care of you too. I promise. The next day, wedding day. St. Paul's Church in downtown Boston was simply decorated but full of love. White and blue flowers filled the altar, and the families were seated together, Chen's and Rodriguez's side by side, finally united. Maya stood in the bride's room, looking at herself in the mirror. The dress fit perfectly, the Chen family ring sparkled on her finger, and Sophia had styled her hair beautifully. You look radiant, Sophia said, holding Nicholas, who wore a tiny tuxedo. I'm nervous, Maya admitted. Why? What if he changes his mind? What if he realizes he could have someone better? Sophia laughed. Maya, you saved his career, stood by him when everyone else turned their backs, and you love him exactly as he is. If anyone should be worried right now, it's him. A knock at the door interrupted them. It was Colonel Rodriguez, sharp in his full military dress uniform. Sweetheart, he said, and Maya saw emotion in his eyes. It's time. They walked to the entrance of the church. The music began, and Maya saw David at the altar, looking handsome in a simple tuxedo, with Diego by his side as the best man. When David saw her walking toward him, his face lit up with the most beautiful smile in the world. Maya felt all her doubts disappear. Colonel Rodriguez gave Maya to David with a firm handshake and a whisper, "Take care of my girl." "With my life?" David replied. The ceremony was simple but moving. When it was time for the vows, David spoke first. "Maya, you came into my office and my life like a hurricane. You taught me that being vulnerable isn't weakness, it's courage. I promise to love you, support you, and fly by your side for the rest of my life." Maya felt the tears fall freely. "David, you showed me that being strong doesn't mean facing everything alone. You are my safe place, my courage, my heart. I promise to love you through every storm and under every blue sky." "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the priest said. "You may kiss the bride." The kiss was gentle, full of promises and love. The church burst into applause, and Maya heard military planes fly overhead, a surprise her father had arranged. At the reception, held in the hospital garden where David worked, the two families blended together naturally. Mrs. Chen and Colonel Rodriguez even danced together, competing over who had organized their part of the party better. "How do you feel, Mrs. Chen?" David asked Maya during their first dance. "Like I'm flying," she said, "but this time with my feet on the ground." "And how do you feel about being married to a poor doctor?" Maya laughed. "I'd take a poor doctor who saves lives over a billionaire who doesn't know who he is any day." David spun her on the makeshift dance floor. "Maya Chen, I love you." "David Chen, I love you too." When the party was winding down, Maya and David found themselves alone in the small hospital garden. The sky was full of stars, and the city of Boston sparkled around them. "No regrets?" David asked. "Not one," Maya replied. "And you?" "Just one." Maya looked at him concerned. "What is it?" David grinned playfully. "That it took me so long to walk into a medical office." Maya laughed and kissed him under the stars. "Well, Dr. Chen, now you have the rest of your life to make up for lost time." "That's exactly what I plan to do, Captain Chen." And as they kissed, surrounded by the love of their families and the promise of all the tomorrows to come, Maya knew she had found her most important mission, to love and be loved by David Chen, the man who had changed her life forever. What did you think of Maya and David's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What score would you give it? Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to follow all our stories. And take a moment to watch more emotional stories by clicking here on the final screen.